Before I cut out gluten, I was having a really difficult time losing weight, even maintaining my weight, not being bloated, and having a difficult time concentrating. Now, without gluten in my life, I've lost fat. I'm able to maintain my weight so much easier. If I eat gluten, I can physically see it and feel it in my body. It feels like it just slows the clock down on my metabolism. So again, when I don't eat it, so much better. I can actually focus. I'm not bloated. I don't get tired for seemingly no reason. And I just feel better overall. I do still sometimes enjoy it. Very rarely, very occasionally. I'm very picky when I do have it. And I make sure that I take digestive enzymes to help me break it down. And I enjoy it.
Going gluten-free is the ultimate diet trend of the last decade. You hear people saying, I'm going gluten-free for my health. I'm going to drop the wheat so that I can also drop the weight. And that's because we've been told that gluten is some form of glue that just sticks to your inside, that it causes a wheat belly, and that the moment you stop eating bread, your body will magically transform. We see celebrities swearing by it. We see gluten-free stickers on almost every menu in restaurants now. And we see gluten-free items on the supermarket aisles. And because of these, in our heads, gluten-free has now become synonymous with calorie-free or healthy. But then you spend $12 on a loaf of bread and it tastes like cardboard. You swap your pasta for a gluten-free version and then the scale just stays where it was. Or worse, it goes up. So is going gluten-free an actual weight loss hack? Or have we been thinking that a protein that's found in wheat, rye, and barley is the source of our weight loss struggles? Today we're going to slice through the gluten-free hype. Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm Daisy aka D, and if you're new here, you're very, very welcome. I spend my weeks debunking the weight loss myths that make weight loss feel like a maze. And to my regulars, thank you for tuning in again. I really do appreciate you. Today's myth is a massive one. You need to cut out gluten if you want to lose weight. I see this constantly in my Better in 90 program. I see it constantly on social media. I see all these weight loss transformations on TikTok where people say that the only thing that they did different was that they stopped eating gluten and then they lost the weight. And this reflects in my Better in 90 program because again, they all use social media. They all have access to all of these transformations. And so these women come to me and they feel frustrated because they've cut out gluten. They're no longer having bread. They're no longer having pancakes. They're no longer having cakes. And still they're not seeing the weight loss that they were promised. And so they're frustrated because they feel like they're being good, but then they're miserable because they are not eating what they want and then they're not seeing the results that they want. Now here's the hard truth when it comes to this gluten-free hype. Gluten-free does not necessarily mean weight loss friendly. Unless you have celiac disease or you have been diagnosed with a sensitivity to gluten, then gluten is not a problem. Let's talk about the replacement trap, why gluten-free can actually mean more calories, and what's actually happening when people lose weight on a gluten-free diet. Now, before I go further, I have a confession. Sometime back during my undergrad years, I did go gluten-free because I wanted to lose weight. And I had heard that going gluten-free was the way to do that. That was way before my weight loss coaching, before I transformed my body. And I thought that that was the actual path to weight loss. And it worked. I lost so much weight that people started asking me what I was doing different and whether I could guide them on doing the same thing. And so I understand why people are so amazed when they see these transformations. I understand why it gets so much hype. Because not only did I get the results that I wanted, I was also part of the hype. I was the person telling people that the only thing that I was doing different was that I went gluten-free, and now here I was. I had lost about maybe 5 kilograms at that point. It was my undergrad years. I didn't really have that much weight to lose, but it was a big transformation. I could see it, and people could see it. People could see my clavicles. People could see that I had lost the weight. But is going gluten-free as effective as people think that it is? Here is why going gluten-free gets people talking so much about it. First, we have to talk about the everything else effect. When most people go gluten-free, they're not just cutting out the gluten. By going gluten-free, they accidentally cut out things like pizzas, donuts, beer, fast food breading. You know, when you add ordering drumsticks, they're usually breaded, so you can't really have those breaded drumsticks or any other breaded fast food items. Giant bowls of pasta, cake at parties, cookies when you go to a coffee shop, and the list goes on and on and on. And now when you cut out all these food items, you end up cutting out thousands of calories of refined sugars and fats. So in that case, it's not the lack of gluten that's going to cause the weight loss, right? It will be the absence of the surplus calories that come with these gluten-filled foods. Because look at it this way, if you replace your slice of pizza with an apple, you're essentially replacing hundreds of calories with something that's like less than 100 calories. And you keep doing this over and over with different foods, you lose weight. It's not the gluten, it's the replacement, which is causing the reduction in calories. Secondly, we have to talk about the gluten-free halo trap. And this is where people get stuck. Marketers already know that people think that eating gluten-free means that they're eating healthy. And healthy is often equated with weight loss. But Now, making gluten-free foods that taste good, that don't just taste like cardboard or water, is hard, So for them to make gluten-free foods, like snacks or cakes that actually taste good enough for people to come back for more, they have to put in some extra effort. And because they do not have this stretch that comes with gluten, they opt for things like extra fat, extra sugar, and extra starches like potato or tapioca starch. And these foods, yeah, they taste good, but that's not all they do. On average, many gluten-free options have 20 to 30% more calories compared to their gluten-filled counterparts. Check this table out. One serving of a chocolate chip cookie, if you're eating the regular version, you'll eat about 130 calories. But if you go for the gluten-free version, you'll have 160 calories. If you're going for bread, 2 slices of white bread, if it's the regular type of bread that you buy in your typical store, that's like 140 calories. But if you go for the gluten-free version, you're going to go up to 180 calories on average. And if you're having brownie mix, that's 120 calories for the regular version. If you go gluten-free, that's 150 calories. Of course, these numbers are averages, and every brand will have different numbers. But then you can see that usually gluten-free options have more calories compared to the gluten-filled options. And that means if you're eating gluten-free foods like brownies or brownie mix or cakes or cookies because you think that they are the weight loss foods, you could actually be eating more calories compared to eating the originals.
Okay, here are some more examples of how my face has changed since I stopped eating gluten. I actually just sent this picture to my mom and she didn't believe that this was taken within the year. She was like, oh my God, that's such an old photo. I was like, Mom, this was taken on your birthday. This is a screenshot from a video, but this one really gets me. Like, look at my chipmunk cheeks. Here you can get the full perspective. I don't know if you can tell as well in this one, but I used so much bronzer to try and contour my face because my cheeks were so swollen. I just need to go back to this gem for a second because I think it's the most obvious. I want to point out that I actually weighed less when I took this video than I do now, so this is not a weight loss thing. That was entirely inflammation. I also just want to say that this is not a PSA trying to get everyone to go gluten-free because honestly, it fucking sucks and I'm so jealous of everyone who can still eat gluten. But if you're like me and you're celiac or you're gluten intolerant or you're just curious what going on a gluten-free diet might do, there you go.
I mean, looking at that transformation, if you deal with inflammation or if you're trying to lose weight, you'll be so tempted to go gluten-free because that's in a year. Her face has changed that much in a year. And it's not just her face, she's also going to lose weight. But that brings us to part number 3, which is the fiber fail. Gluten is a protein, but it's found in whole grains like wheat, barley, and rye. Now, when you cut out those completely, if you're not being careful with your replacements, you can cut out a massive source of fiber, especially if you're eating these grains whole. And as we talked about in our last video, fiber is the secret to keeping you full. It's not just protein, you also need fiber because it slows down the rate of digestion, and it also signals to your stomach that you've had enough food and it's time to stop eating, which helps you, with managing your fullness signals. And that's why you find that people who cut out gluten without a really good plan on how they're going to make up for this loss in fiber end up feeling hungrier than usual, and this can make them eat more calories because they'll end up overeating other foods during the day, because again, gluten is not calories. When we're talking about gluten, it's just the protein. So now, even if you cut out things like pasta and cookies and then you replace them with things like corn flour and rice, but you're still eating enough of them to be in a calorie surplus, you will gain weight. And that brings us to our verdict. As much as I once cut out gluten in order to stay lean, I know better now because I've been able to lose weight while still eating gluten. I'm able to maintain this weight while still eating gluten. I start my day with rotis. I often have wheat berries for my dinner. I know that gluten has a place in our weight loss journey, and this is something that I also teach the women in my Better in 90 program. And how do I do this? How do we do this in my Better in 90 program? How do we keep on having banana bread? How do we keep on having cakes at parties without gaining weight? It all comes down to the quality of the carb. If you do not have a medical reason to avoid eating gluten, then you don't need to cut it out. That's the most important takeaway here, because the creators that I've covered have gluten sensitivity, they have gluten intolerance. There are many people who have celiac disease or gluten sensitivity, and in their case, then cutting out gluten is important for them to protect their health, to protect their well-being, mentally, physically, emotionally. All of those things matter. But if you don't have a sensitivity, then there's no need for you to go gluten-free. So if you're not going gluten-free and you want to lose weight, what do? First, you need to choose whole over processed. Instead of going out to buy very expensive gluten-free bread that has been highly processed, it's better for you to go for a variety of whole grains. That way you have variety and you're still eating gluten. And these options include quinoa, brown rice, oats, sweet potatoes. And if you're going to go for, gluten, then I would recommend going for whole wheat flour instead of going for the white flour, because again, it comes down to the fiber. You want more fiber in your foods for your health and for your weight loss journey. Secondly, you need to focus on the company that gluten keeps. Many people will blame gluten for their weight gain, but then they'll somehow forget what they had it with. Say for example, example, that you're going to have bread. Many people like bread, but then do they really like the bread? Because you'll hear someone saying that they really love bread, but then if they can't have it with Nutella, they cannot have it with peanut butter, they cannot have it with butter, they cannot have it with all of these condiments, then they don't really want the bread. So is it the bread they love, or is it the condiments? And then they'll have their bread with these condiments, and then they'll say that, oh yeah, gluten is really making me gain weight. Is it though? No, it's not, because it's all about what you're having the gluten with. Like, take a slice of sourdough, that's 100 calories, then you add butter to it, or peanut butter, then you increase the amount of calories that you're taking because you added to the sourdough. And that means even as you continue eating gluten, you need to watch your portions, and then you keep them moderate, and especially watch out for those add-ons. It's easy to forget that you had marmalade, that you added honey, that you added all of these things to your bread, because for many people the act of eating the bread is not just about the bread, it's also about what they add to it. And if you're not paying attention to those things, and they're very easy to forget, then you will end up in a calorie surplus. Finally, you need to read the nutrition label. It's very easy to see gluten-free on a food and think that it's automatically healthy or it's automatically low in calories, but it is way more effective for you to actually turn the food around and read the nutrition label, because this is where you find the truth. This is where you realize how much protein it has, what kinds of sugars it has added to it, what kind of ingredients they actually used, how many calories are in this food. And this is where you get to compare the gluten-free product to the regular version, and then you can see the nutrient breakdown and the calories, and then you can compare the two and decide which one is actually healthier. And in this way, you don't let the health halo that comes with gluten-free trick you into going into a calorie surplus. As we come to the end, we can definitely say that going gluten-free is a lifesaver for people with celiac disease. It's a way for people with gluten sensitivities and intolerances to ensure that they are eating food in a way that doesn't leave them with adverse effects like abdominal pain and bloating and nausea and all of these uncomfortable symptoms that come from eating gluten if you're sensitive or intolerant to it. But for everyone else, including me, it's just an expensive way to eat more calories in most cases. And at the end of the day, weight loss is not about avoiding a specific protein in a certain food. It's about achieving a consistent calorie deficit and eating the foods that make you feel good. So have you ever gone gluten-free in order to lose weight? Did it end up working for you, or did you end up missing pizza? Like, I remember when I was gluten-free, I was so committed to it that once someone bought me a cake on my actual birthday and I turned them away because I couldn't trust myself to go home with that cake and not eat it. And deep down I knew that I really wanted that cake. It was chocolate cake, which is like my favorite flavor, but I had to say goodbye to the cake because I knew that I couldn't have it with me without, breaking the rules. If you've ever had a similar experience, let me know in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up if it helped you keep your pasta, your cakes, your cookies, and all those other things that you love that are full of gluten. And of course, if you're gluten sensitive or you're intolerant to gluten, I do know that there are very many gluten-free options out there that are good for you, that will help you with your weight loss journey. You just need to look at the same things that we talked about in this video. You need to compare the nutrient breakdowns and the calories, and if you can learn to make some of these things yourself so that you can understand what exactly you have used in their food. That said, hit subscribe so that you do not miss out on next week's meal, and I'll see you in the next one.